Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Reason We Learn and another episode of Common Core Diva Deep Dives. And our friend, the Common Core Diva, Lynne Taylor, is here with us today again to share her wisdom and knowledge and extraordinary research. This time, we are talking about gifted and talented programs and gifted and talented children and how our system is failing them, or I would say abusing them. So where do we start, Lynne?
Well, let's start off with the head chief idiot here in North Carolina, otherwise known as the governor. And please do not misunderstand me. Just because he's a Democrat and I'm not does not mean that he's the only chief idiot we've had in North Carolina. Our last one, a Republican, was also a chief idiot for some of the things that he proclamated as well. But the reason I wanted to start with Roy Cooper's Gifted and Talented Education Week for 2024, which we just passed in March, was because if you look at the proclamation in depth, Deb, you're going to see that the number one thing that the governor was propping up was not our students, not their gifts and talents, but the economic prosperity that the state was going to gain. What does that tell us? Whenever our leaders and officials, elected or appointed, put economy above people, that's fascism.
Yeah, last time I checked, certainly was. Yeah.
It absolutely is. Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay. The second bullet point, talent in all economic zones or strata. If you
We
go back
talked
and
about this the last show, the
we did,
economic zones with
right, the
the free
haves, the
lunch
have
program.
nots. Absolutely. And North Carolina is chopped up into what's known as prosperity zones, the haves, the have nots. We absolutely did. Number three, you have to identify your gifted and talent, again, not for their prowess in academics and how they could prosper for themselves or even the economics of North Carolina, but for the global society's competition. The greater global good is what this is code for. Is that North Carolinian? Is that American? No. And this is not just happening in North Carolina because we have gifted and talented, as well as our disabled students who are on the other end of the exceptional child spectrum. They're being streamlined into this global minionship.
I'm calm.
I know
Continue.
you are.
I don't have
We've got
anything to
two.
say. Go ahead, keep going.
We have three more points off of this wonderful proclamation that's supposed to be all about Johnny and Susie's just wonderful gifted brains. Okay, number four. Future leaders in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, which is code for United Nations Sustainable Development Goal discipleship.
Well, wait. I also noticed that right after science comes writing and politics.
Absolutely,
And
because
why
we
do I
have
have
to
a feeling those two go together? They
because
go
we
together,
have to
Lynne.
we have to teach even our gifted and talented as well as our disabled what to think, not how to think. That's why it's there. Number five, all students. And we know that anytime any government from local, state, or federal uses the word all, it does not stop at the public school door. It is embedded for every child in that state. Because if you look at the funding, especially in North Carolina per district, not only are our legislators promised a return on investment of every person in their district to go along with this garbage, but you have returns on investments by businesses. You have population funds that are based off of every 5 to 17-year-old, regardless of school choice location.
Well, that includes homeschooling, and I'd like to point out some language here that jumped out at me. It says,
Sure.
whereas all students, including the gifted, develop their full potential only, and I always tell people when you see a word only, that means a
Mhm.
government regulation or proclamation is about to occur that's going to come into your house.
Right.
Only when their special strengths are identified and supported through, here's the word, appropriately differentiated educational experiences per the government, because you have to ask
Right.
yourself, according to whom is it appropriate? So if you're
And
a homeschooling parent with special needs kids, or you're a special needs parent who has decided how you want to separately provide or differentiate for your child because they're not getting it done in the school day. So you decide to privately do it. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not appropriately differentiated according to
Right.
Roy Cooper.
We didn't authorize that particular service or that particular person. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, the sixth point. 2024 North Carolina Year of Public Schools and Whole Community. Well, that's code for the wraparound services, the school as the hub for everything happening, not just for those in the school, but everyone in your community. So we're going to level the playing field. And finally, we have the Gifted and Talented Week that celebrated nationwide. And that again was in March.
Well, and again, I'll add to this that when your
Yes.
governor, who represents all of the constituents of the state
Right.
and he doesn't work for the public schools. It is not
Right.
his job to prop up the public schools. The Constitution of the state of North Carolina, or any other state for that matter, merely
Right.
says that you have to have public schools, which of course I would like it not to say, but it does.
Right.
It doesn't say a damn thing about him being the chief marketing officer for those public schools. It presumably should be on the public schools to perform. And if they don't, they should be sanctioned by that same governor that you elected to represent you, not the public schools or the teachers association or any of the private contractors that service the public schools and get paid with your tax dollars. So what I read this as, Lynn, is that he's basically declaring war on anybody who criticizes the public schools simply because they're public schools. Like, he supports them because they exist, not whether they do a good job or not, and underscoring their importance in our society. That's where I get I'm declaring war on homeschoolers. I'm declaring war on anybody in private school, Christian school, Jewish school, anybody who's not my year. This year is the year of public school because they are important in our society. And then here it is. And to accomplish the goal, wait, I thought it was a goal for each individual child. The goal of providing appropriate, according to whom, educational challenges to all. Wait a minute. Now you're sucking in homeschooling and people who aren't even in the public schools, all children and youth, all. So they reach their full potential, according to whom, who gets to decide what their full potential is. We, the royal we, must elicit the help of the entire community. Again, we're communists now. No, I don't want the village raising my child. Thank you very much. Policymakers, educators, business leaders, civic. No, 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 and no. I didn't have a baby to have them all weigh in on the education of my child to improve education for our state's brightest and most. They don't belong to you. They're not our state's brightest children.
Exactly.
They belong to themselves, and their brains and their brightness belongs to them. And if they so choose to use that brilliance in support of something that benefits other people, so be it. And if they don't, that's their right too. I don't own their intelligence. Neither does Roy Cooper. This last proclamation to me is a full-blown, full-throated declaration of war against the individual, bright and not so bright, and against homeschooling.
It absolutely is, but let's not gloss over the fact that Governor McCrory did the same thing when he proclaimed that
100%.
all students had to be in career tech education, which is adult common core.
This is not a partisan issue, y'all.
Exactly. It's
not. At all.
It's not. When it comes
to government versus you.
Right. When it comes
always to and forever.
When it comes to education, the Democrats and the Republicans, independent, liberal, Green Party, whatever political Kool-Aid you want to drink, have zero business in education, but every one of them has inserted themselves. And this is not something new, nor is it going to go away. Let's move on. We have a group out of Wake County that is the parents for the gifted and aware. And they responded so favorably to Governor Cooper's proclamation. And I wanted to point out that here's their response. And then if you go and you look at them, the person who heads them up is not a true educator, but yet she's a parent.
Oh, wait, where am I? Should I be going to that? Because this is
Not yet, not yet,
Crystal
not yet.
Whittington. Crystal
Right.
Whittington.
We'll get there, but I wanted folks to see that this is the page, and your county and your state will more than likely have this similar type of parent group, because there is a national network for accelerated, gifted, and talented. There's also national groups and state groups for special needs, because let's remember, in North Carolina, you don't have gifted and talented and disabled, Deb. You have this full spectrum called exceptional, but
Well,
yet
because
we
we
have
can't
both
it's
ends.
mean to call them gifted and talented and special needs. That's mean, or disabled. That's
Well,
mean.
it's
They're
politically
all gonna be in the
correct.
same category.
Well, because they're being streamlined, and we're going to get there. But I wanted folks to see, look in your county, look in your state. There will be organizations of these Pollyannic people who have bought into the thing of your gifted child, your disabled child is ours collectively. And as such, we're going to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm advising parents that if you suspect that your child is gifted or profoundly gifted or even special needs, do everything you do privately. And people say, but it's expensive and I need to go through the state because I need to get this. Da, da, da." First of all, the state does an absolute crap job of diagnosis of any, diagnosis or identification of giftedness or special
Mhm.
needs. It is to their benefit to not identify your child as being exceptional in any possible way. So chances are you're going to spin your wheels, put your child through a lot of turmoil and testing, only to have to go back and do it privately later anyway. And you're losing time. If you have the smallest suspicion that your child is in this category, suck it up, sell something, do whatever, and go get them privately tested, and then keep it to your dang self and
Yeah,
make a decision, because public school is
we'll
not going to
ruin it.
support you. It will
And
ruin them.
same with the disabled, because I have a wonderful friend who has an adult child who was on the special needs part of the spectrum.
That's right.
Totally streamlined her to the point of, she, even in her mentally incapacitated state, knew, I don't want to go, mom. I don't want to go. And so, yeah, they're out to streamline our children into this cookie cutter economic gain for everyone else. Think how we tell you to think system. Let's move on, please. Okay, you've seen the parent support group. Now, the reason why I wanted to point out the president is because she is a former Harcourt assessment expert or member. Harcourt is Harcourt, Hofflin, Mifflin Publishers. In other words, Common Core state standard published garbage. And she is a former assessment creator expert for them. And she's now suddenly putting on her parent hat, leading this group. Leading them how? Under whose authority? Is it what she learned over at the Common Core machine with Harcourt, Heartland, and Mifflin? Don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, we're going to go to the North Carolina definition of gifted and talented. All right, that is our second attachment, Miss Deb.
Oh, the attachment. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's fine. You're absolutely fine. And you'll notice at the top of this, it's going to say call to action. Okay?
Hold on. Yep.
You're
I'm going to
fine.
have to go get that.
You're
So
fine.
that's the one, and it's called academically and
Yes, that was the second attachment after the proclamation. It was
okay.
call to action is the top of it.
Huh. I see. Is it AIG program standards or equity and excellence?
It's equity excellence, my dear.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I want folks to see this. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Call to action. Critical actions to realize, you're going to love this, equity and excellence in gifted education. Changing mindsets, policies, and practices to increase access and opportunities, to increase achievement and growth for all. Okay. In gifted education, we seek to meet the advanced learning needs of students all day, every day. However, inequities rooted in larger society plague education, often leading to inequitable representation in gifted programs. Deb, would you address that paragraph, please?
That is basically saying there aren't enough Black and brown people in our gifted and talented programs, and we need to fix this, even if we have to do it arbitrarily.
Okay. All right.
I
Now,
mean, did I get it right?
you pretty much did. And this is not to call out any one student population. This is saying that regardless of skin color, the system is out to ruin your child, not gift them, not equip them, but to indoctrinate them. All right. We have what is equity and excellence and gifted and what is not. These are all rebrands of the Common Core. For instance, we are going to have programs based on local context and data. In North Carolina, as in other states, we have what's called a common data follow-up system. So anytime you're disabled or gifted or student outside of public education enters any program connected to the North Carolina Department of Instruction, Public Instruction, they are assigned a concise number that data tracks them and all their courses through their career to track them from school to work. It's passed off as personalized learning, which if you look at the Common Core definition of personalized learning, it is glorified poppycock.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to get down into some of these, what is equity and excellence, and make it really clear to people that if you look at the last two, where it says it is not about putting up barriers and hurdles, it is about expanding access and opportunities, that is them signaling to you that they're purposely not going to keep this selective based on objective criteria. And they're saying it's not about recognizing students who come with, and this is so infuriating, easily recognizable gifts and talents. Screw you. They're not easily recognizable. That's the whole problem that parents have, is they kind of stumble upon this. They know something's different. Their child knows they're different, but it's figuring out exactly what those gifts and talents are. It's not just, oh, you're a math genius, let's give you more math. This belittles the very process of identifying the gifts and the talents such that the child actually feels heard, because they very often coincide with certain kinds of difficulties. It's, twice exceptional, so to speak. And to make it, to belittle it like, oh, this person's good at math, that's easy to figure out. This makes me so angry, I could scream. And then they go on to say, it's about being a talent scout and intentionally creating environments to recognize and develop talents not yet tapped. This is your different kinds of intelligence, different frames of, different experiences, different knowledges that they love to push on us, that somehow something can make you a genius and exceptional and special if somebody says so. If you're they are going to literally, to get their demographics right, they are going to suddenly point out something that is not and never would be considered objectively a talent, and call it a talent and label these kids special. And meanwhile, all the effort and money they're spending doing that is not being spent recognizing or helping to figure out what actual talents are. Talents and gifts are measured against a standard. And it's an objective, measurable one. If you throw that out the window, then my goodness, we're all geniuses. If we say so, just like I'm not a woman, I'm a man.
But think about it, Deb. We have the same thing going on at the other end of the spectrum, where all kids are being labeled some sort of need for intervention for behavior problems or special needs problems. So we've got it going on at that end as well.
If we can label everybody, we can medicate, treat, diagnose,
exactly,
commodify everyone. Every single child at this point, this should tell you, amongst everything else that Lynne's about to show us, your child is a commodity. Your child is a product. And what we are telling you in every one of these shows is the myriad ways that your government is commodifying your offspring. Your precious baby is the product.
Absolutely. And we are as well, because we're supposed to be reskilled through this blasted system as well to serve someone else. So this is not exclusive to our children, but our children are the ones who are under fire right now. Let's move to number one. We must reframe our lens on how we view students, their actions and beliefs, Deb. Number two, we have to align.
Wait.
Okay, action
reframe
number
our lens
one.
and how we view students, their actions and beliefs. So how we view their actions and beliefs.
Change the test. Change the test. Change the way that they're identified. Number 2, align identification practices with the services provided. Use universal screening. Okay, universal does not stop at the public school. It goes into the friggin' community. Every child. Why do you think the funding systems are set for 5 to 17-year-olds, regardless of where they go to school? It's because, as Deb has said, as I have said, for years, when you put economy over people, it is about money and control, not how well educated your child is. And universal screening has been proven to marginalize students across the board, whether they're special needs, regular kids, or gifted. Let's move on, please.
Yep. What's next?
Now, action number 3. Let's scroll down,
Got
because here we will see social, emotional, and cognitive needs. That is not the public schools jurisdiction, but we have allowed it. Number 4, provide early interventions. Oh, gee, here we go. For maximum potential. Foster talent development. Do you know how North Carolina, as well as other states, see talent development? It's a pipeline that your kid is funneled through. It's a horrible image, but it is one the Common Core machine has used for decades. All right, number 5, we're going to get expertise in existing data. In other words, we haven't collected enough data on your kids, so we're going to keep going. And then lastly, on number 6, total school community, including partners in and out of school. In other words, we have more fascism showing up in public-private partnerships.
This initiative is aligned with the NC 2030 plan and the State Board of Education goals.
Yep, there you go.
So there you go. When you see 2030, that's not just the state, that's UNESCO.
Right.
Those are globalist goals. So folks, this thing may be stamped with North Carolina all over the place. I promise you.
Don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it. Go to your state. Go to your state, look this stuff up, find out how they define exceptional children, gifted children, talented children, find out all of these things. You could spend the whole day and you will find for every aspect of your child's life, things like this in your state too.
Before we move from this particular document, Deb, I wanted to show that when you download this particular document, you're going to get a glossary. And this is part of their strategic plan. I believe, yes, we have the strategic plan.
Okay, so I got to go to that document?
No, we're not going to go. That'll be in the archives for resources for folks. But I just wanted to very briefly point out there are 4 goals in the glossary. Number 1, to eliminate all opportunity gaps. We have our government telling us there's a skills gap, there's an achievement gap. There are no gaps in our children. There's a gap in a corrupt and colluded and broken system. Number 2, we're going to improve performance, mastery-based, outcome-based education for students. Number 3, we're going to improve educator preparation for teachers and leaders. And number 4, we're going to collaborate with all the stakeholders because everyone has a seat at the table for your child.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on. Okay.
So next one you want me to bring up?
Hang on, sweetie. Let me get us back to where we are. Okay. We're not going to go to we've just gone to that. All right. I want us to, check in your state for annual gifted and talented or special needs conferences. North Carolina just had theirs. I put the link in. That can be in the archives as well. Let's go to the National U.S. Gifted and Talented website because I want folks to see that particular.
The North Carolina Association of the Gifted and Talented, or
no, the national one, sweetie. It's going to say nagc.org. It'll say National U.S. Gifted and Talented. Because they also,
got it. Okay. I got it. Okay.
Right. And if you go to this particular strategic plan that's all the way down at the bottom, you are going to see, hang on just a second, that it's internationally tied. So when you see that we have a national gifted and talented network, as we have a national special needs network, they don't stop at American borders. They go all the way internationally. And
Where
this
is
is
that on the site?
okay on their strategic plan. It'll say strategic plan up at the top. Do you see that? That was the second link for the national.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry. Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
so here we
Yep.
are. This is, by the way, under About Us. So
Yes,
from a
it is.
navigational standpoint, I just wanna let people know
Right.
that you go to the site and go
Okay.
to About Us.
Deb, let's take turns reading the strategic plan, please. You go first, please. The big
Okay.
bold letters.
Okay.
You'll love this one.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yep.
NAGC's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion remains one of the top priorities of the association. Objectives under this goal include developing programs to promote greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in the field and in the association, increasing cultural awareness and competence, and expanding resources that advance equity. This is for gifted children.
Research and practice. Well, we know that's going to bring in best practices, which is a crock of crap. All right.
Yeah.
Community. The village raising the child. Yes, there we go. Expertise. Again, whose expertise and what lens are they using? And advocacy. And then you have the ability to scroll through the plan, and it's broken down into those particular goals. It's all of 3 whopping pages, but it's so full of agenda, it's not even funny.
I can't.
Yes, yes. Now we'll go to the U.S. Department of Education.
Okay, that's super fun. And other things that shouldn't exist, like bone
Yes,
cancer. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's okay. Okay, notice how empty this is. Just notice this is taxpayer funded, and they're telling you, oh, yes, we have resources. And look how empty it is. But yet you could go to a private resource like we just were, and it was slammed full of stuff. What does that tell you? The government is relying on private organizations, is what it should tell you.
Well, and the
Okay.
reason people don't understand, Lynn, why that
Yes.
is important. The federal government in particular, and your state government to a lesser degree, but still a little bit, is
Mhm.
limited by this little piece of paper called the Constitution.
Yep.
It cannot prescribe curriculum direction, even strategic goals. It really can't. All it's supposed to be doing is overseeing that everyone's getting everything equally and distributing money. That's literally it. It is literally just a way to hand out money in accordance with things that they can get away with, but they can't get down to the granular level of declaring that any gifted and talented programs must follow certain, curriculum standards. They can't do that. That is unconstitutional. So they enlist private organizations because private organizations can do it without any trouble. And what y'all need to do is you need to connect those two dots and realize that the private org is being either paid for or their broadcasting is being paid for by your tax dollars. And those ideas represent unconstitutional concepts and violations of civil rights, and you still need to push back. They found a loophole this big to squeeze themselves through, and
And
that's
they
it.
did
That's
it.
all it is.
Now, if you on this same page, Deb, if you click on editor's pick, suddenly hundreds of resources pop up. But who is leading you? Are you leading yourself in research? No, someone cherry picked, the editor cherry picked these resources to point you in the direction they want you to go.
Of
And
course
if
they
you
did.
look at this, you're going to see TRIO, which is reserved for those who are coming back into the system. They've been incarcerated. They're coming back into the system. Gear Up, that's decided, that's another government program set up for youth who've been troubled and are trying to get back into the system as well. Both are workforce-based education programs. Both are used for gifted and talented and special needs as well. And if you look at the it's insane. They're pointing you to places that they want you to look because they want you to assume that they're so smart that you can complicitly trust them.
If we have
Now,
learned nothing in the past 4 years since COVID, it should be you cannot trust your government to be the expert in anything except how to grow the government. They're real
right,
good at that, real good at
right.
spending your money, real good at getting you to comply with things by basically lying to you and then expanding their power.
Okay, so people can understand this. We just have shown them that resources for parents under the Department of Education weren't there unless you went under editor, but they do, to cover their backside, have a gifted office. That was authorized by the Every Student Succeeds Act, which said on page 17 of the final conference report, as well as page 33 of the final law version, that all education had to be aligned to the same post-secondary readiness standards as laid out by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. All education, Deb, all students, all learners, all teachers had to be aligned to the same thing. That blows choice. That also blows out of the water differentiated for special needs, gifted, or those in between.
Well, now, Lynn, what do you say to those people, Corey Daniels, who say that, but this is state money for school choice? It's state money. It's not federal money.
BS.
It's state money. I'm sorry, what?
BS,
Thank
and horse
you.
hockey. It
Isn't
is.
money fungible? Doesn't the federal government already tell the state that because they send federal money to the state, any money that the state uses for education is presumed to be commingled with their money, and which has been decided in a court of law, by the way, pretty much means that the federal government could come in and dictate what goes on in their state school choice because, money's fungible.
It's not even at the federal level's feet. Go back to UNESCO. Go back
Oh,
to
no,
the United Nations.
I know
It
that.
is
I'm
a.
just
I
telling
know
you,
you are.
they're going to argue with
I
me
know.
or you. And my point, as it's always been, is that when push comes to shove, even if you
Right.
have a director of public instruction who knows her, but from something else, then
Mhm.
you still come up against when all else fails. If for example, we got a new one and she said, we're not going along with this UNESCO stuff, along would come the federal government and say, oh, we heard that you were kind of tossing this stuff out, but you still wanted to keep school choice going in your state. Yeah, so we're not going to be giving you your federal money anymore.
And they'll shrivel up and blow away or feel like they will. No state has the gumption to give back the federal money.
That's right.
They don't. They won't. North
They won't.
Carolina included.
And the instant you try to
Mhm.
implement a plan that basically says, we're going to stand on our own as a state and we're going to cut this and cut that and we're going to say no to the federal money. I mean, you don't get me wrong. You actually could financially, you could do
You
it. No
could.
problem. No problem. They just haven't really dug into how to do it. The federal government won't allow it. They will make it so politically unpopular for you to do that. They will bring out the big dogs and the big guns and the MSNBCs and everybody. This state is hurting children.
But think about all the people in the states, Deb. If you even thought about cutting federal funds.
Oh, forget it. Like I said,
Oh,
it would be so easy.
because we have so many people who are so addicted to that money that, oh my gosh, it would be absolute suicide.
Well, Lynn, you've already showed it to us. All the private organizations, the NGOs, and the different people, not to mention the data companies, data, that have skin in the game now, that if they thought, because they would be the first ones to be cut, if the state had to stand on its own 2 feet and simply provide the basic equal quality education that is required by the state constitution, but they cut all the fluff and all that other stuff that those people are getting paid to provide, these people would not be happy. There goes my government cheese.
Yep.
There goes my
what am I going to do? Yeah.
What am I going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
how am I going to live? How am I?
Yeah, they'd be campaigning against it. There's nobody that could pull this off. Nobody.
That's right. All right, let's move on, my dear. Okay, federal government has defined what gifted and talented is.
Is that this?
That was explained by Cornell University.
Yep.
Oh, it means students, children, or youth, Deb.
Youth.
Who?
What's a
Give.
youth? What's a youth? And how is a
Oh,
youth different from a child?
well, that just covers their backside for that older age group. It
We getting
actually
all the way up to
does.
30 now with youth? Like
Something
how old
like
is it?
that. Yep,
I think
something
it's
like that.
26 at
Okay.
this point, but we're moving up.
Yeah, look at this. Give evidence of high achievement capability in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, or leadership capacity.
This right here, just read activism. That's all you need to read. If that child demonstrates a temperament that's good and angry, and they think they can harness this kid's good and angriness or righteous indignation about any kind of activist issue, they have leadership ability.
So we have to put them on the manager track, not the minion track, because that's the two you'll get through
Do
this
you
system.
have borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder? You're gifted.
What if I'm stubborn, Deb? Or as
Well,
they
if you're
have rebranded it,
stubbornly
defiant.
individualistic, if you're defiant instead, because if you're individualistic, you're defiant. You have defiance disorder. That's a problem. If you're
Oh,
stubbornly refusing to give up your deeply held beliefs that don't align with the government's deeply held beliefs, well, that's a disorder that we need to send you
you
for
have
some.
to be managed. Shame
You
on
need to be
you.
managed.
Okay,
Yeah.
look at B. Need services or activities not ordinarily provided by who? The school. I want you to know there's an entire plethora of special needs and gifted people who never were identified by the school and lived wonderful lives. Go look at some of them. They're hanging up in museums. Their
Thomas
work.
Edison was kicked out of school, and his mom was told that he was basically retarded because he couldn't do what the school wanted him to do, or rather, wouldn't do what the stupid teacher wanted him to do. And he then, from the age of 10, was like self taught in just about everything, and the rest is history. And
Okay.
like,
Okay, so there's the supposed federal definition. All right, we're going to go back to the third attachment. This is the AI gifted program standards. Okay.
okay,
All
let's
right,
get
because
there.
I wanted to do that. Give you the federal definition, then we're going to see what North Carolina has defined them as.
Is
Okay.
that this one?
Let's see here. It's going to say
AI GUI
academically.
programming standards.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Per our state constitution, Deb, this is up on the right. Okay.
Yeah.
Top right. North Carolina General Statute 115C-150.5. Now, we just got the federal definition. Here is the state. Now, look at your state as well. Academically or intellectually gifted students perform or show the potential to perform at substantially high levels of accomplishment when compared with others of their age, experience, or environment. Academically or intellectually gifted students exhibit high performance capability in intellectual areas, specific academic fields, or in both the intellectual areas and specific academic fields. Academically or intellectually gifted students require differentiated educational services beyond those ordinarily provided by the regular education program. Outstanding abilities are present in students from all cultural groups across all economic strata and in all areas of human
essentially,
endeavor.
this is very different from the federal definition,
It
but
is.
but this one I don't really have a problem with. This one is indicating to me that they're
Right.
saying that measured, or that they're showing it performance and things like that. When I see the words performance,
Right.
we're talking about measurement still. So this
That means
still,
assessments,
right.
which
So
means
this
the, go
still
ahead.
is like, most people would read this and be like, this is fine. This is what I would expect to see.
Okay, but look at the rationale. Okay. We're going to
Where
have life. Okay, that's right below it.
But that's why I'm saying it. I'm
Yeah.
saying if you stop at the
Right.
definition, you'll be comforted and think this is fine.
Oh, this is fine. Why are they having, this
Right.
this
But this is
broadcast?
where the money
This
meets.
is where, well, of course, you have to look beyond the fluff. You have to look beyond what they want you to see. All right. The rationale. Well, first of all, we have politicians who have been elected or appointed who have come up with this rationale, as well as the stakeholders who are holding their hands. So how objective is this, or is it subjective? We don't know. We're not told. It's just the rationale. But the General Assembly believes that public schools should challenge all students to aim for academic excellence. It goes on to tell you that they want to encourage students to become lifelong learners. Bingo! International UN Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development term there. Lifelong learners means you are aligned from cradle to grave in what the government wants to teach you, how to think and where to work and how to learn. That's exactly what lifelong learner means. It means you will never be out of the system. With the capacity to engage in a globally collaborative society, in other words, collectivism, no crab can crawl out of this pot, not in North Carolina, not in any state. Therefore, quality and comprehensive AIG programs are essential in supporting these goals. This is all tied. Yeah, this was all tied with the rollout, because if you look at the very next paragraph, it tells you January 2008. Just 4 years before that is when Bill Gates signed the education agreement with UNESCO for a one world curriculum with one world assessment. And North Carolina was almost at the starting gate with saying, sign us up, we're in.
That doesn't surprise me one single bit.
And if you don't believe that, go back on my blog and look, because I can absolutely point it out to you. Okay, we're moving on because I am getting so angry. Okay. The world, now speaking of this being tied to lifelong learning international standards, the next attachment we have is the world gifted and talented history. Now, the reason why this is important is because it will tell you that the World Council challenged.
Now I've got to find which one.
Okay, it was right after the one we just had, sweetie.
Is it Raise the Bar or what's the name?
No. This is down in the attachments.
Yep, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, dear. It was the WCGTH history. You should see.
Oh, I know what happened. Okay, sorry, my bad.
No, it's fine. I wanted folks to see this.
Yeah,
because this is in the history. Again, this will be a downloadable resource, several pages, but it's key to have this because this again is showing you evidence that this is not a North Carolina cooked up system. This is not even a U.S. cooked up system. This is a world system. And it tells you on page 7, Deb, the first World Council of Gifted and Talented Children conference was held in a developing country and the first in the Far East. Stimulating keynote presentations were delivered by James Gallagher, the World Council president, who challenged the concept of a normal psychometric curve. He said there was never a normal curve because society will tilt that curve positively or negatively through supportive familial and educational environments or through poverty and malnutrition as well as cultural deprivation. It goes on to tell you that the concern was felt at the United Nations, especially for the first and third world membership countries, stressing that the difference in roles of gifted in developed or undeveloped countries had to have a universal view based on international surveys.
Wow. Talk about a long way around to say the developed countries need to give more money to the undeveloped countries so that we can, because the only reason we don't have this distribution of gifted kids is we don't have enough of what you have. This is literally using the concept of giftedness to put envy in. I mean, this is all about envy. All socialism is codifying envy.
Right. It is. It absolutely is.
Maybe change your culture and your values to mirror the ones that produce a lot of these things, these resources, and move away from your bankrupt culture and values and stop demanding the people who do produce and do have adopted positive ways of living that produce this kind of health and well-being and all these psychometric, ratings. And then you can do it too, yourself. But taking money from us and reducing our students to the same level of malnutrition as yours isn't going to help anyone. They don't want to help anyone. They just want to hurt people they're jealous of.
Right, exactly. All right, we're going to skip down to page 8 because there's even more evidence. Okay, we just blew the doors off of that.
Disgusting.
Okay, on page 8, we see that Jean Houston, the lady who you see there, director of the Foundation for Mind Research in New York, said, "Never before have we had so much ability and responsibility for the remaking of ourselves and our world."
I can't. These people are a religious cult. They're control freaks. They're theosophists. These people are very, very dangerous. I cannot stress that enough.
They are. Now, they also had a regional center for educational innovation and technology, which was originally sponsored by who? UNESCO, and it was called Initech. Initech has memberships with Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Australia, France, New Zealand as associate members, all dedicated to programming cooperation among the Southeast Asian nations through education, science, and culture. Now, one of those Southeast Asian nations is South Korea. South Korea is where the seed for STEM was hatched. And I have that on my blog as well. I'm sorry, I did not include that in the resources, but STEM has been passed off as an American creation. No, the roots are in South Korea. And here's the dirt it was raised in.
Wow.
Okay.
And this 1983, many bad things happened in 1983.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Secretariat was relocated to the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. Dr. Dorothy Sisk, a professor at USF, served as it. The Secretariat was responsible for the renamed journal Gifted International, edited by Dorothy Sisk, and the newsletter World Gifted.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, in the archives, folks are going to get an archived article that I did back in 2019 that was all about John Dewey's influence. And if you'll remember, he was wretched in that particular thing. You're also going to get alternative education, because that would cover special needs up to gifted as well. That was from 2014. Project-based learning is also in gifted and talented education. I blew the doors off of that one. That was in 2019 as well. And then it goes back to one from 2014. In 2016, I exposed the corruption of the National and Gifted Talented Association. AP, which is advanced placement, which goes with gifted and talented, has been aligned to Common Core as well. And then let's see how Operation Polaris under Catherine Truitt, our sitting superintendent.
Who is soon to be gone. And let's just hope to God that she is not replaced by Mo Green.
Well, let's see. From 2021, Operation Polaris, how this was going to streamline your gifted and talented, your special need, as well as homeschoolers and everybody else to have the North Star, because we're the North State, guide your child through what they want you to be. And that is a collective corporate minion. And then finally, the Harcourt part of Hotland Mifflin, I give you that particular article as well. You're going to get 5 different downloads of everything, of not only what we've shown, but stuff we haven't shown. It's a deep dive, but you've got to do it to get behind what they want you to see, because what they want you to see is that everything is peachy keen and wonderful when it's absolutely not. If you go and you look at the increase of medicines that are used in talented and gifted, or even special needs, since 2009, the use of psychotropics in education has skyrocketed. If you look at the past 20 years, they've been advocated by the U.S. Surgeon General as safe and effective. You have the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychiatric Association, as well as the National Alliance in Mental Illness with children and adults with ADHD. They're all backing this stuff up.
This we didn't show this one, but I'm brought it up because
yes,
this headline says it all.
Yep.
Mending the path, the central role of intermediaries, that's called fascism, in building equitable pathways from Marxist from education to work. All this is telling you, I shouldn't say Marxist, but all this is telling you is picking winners and losers who get to have a role to play in our society.
Yep.
According
Absolutely.
to, each according to his abilities, and to, delivering that to everyone else's needs.
Absolutely it is.
But they'll do it fascistically, not communistically, because it will only be a small group of very elite people who get to decide which private entities get to play in the sandbox. It's not true private, free market.
Right. Absolutely. Well, that's the poop on the scoop for this time, my dear.
It is poop on a scoop.
It is.
I say it every time, but it's so obvious to us. And of course, the more we look at it, the more obvious it gets. It's like, it feels like a fist in the face. And yet we're talking to parents, people watching this, listening to this, who are still like, but I don't quite get it. I don't quite get it. It's too much. It's too much. You're overwhelming me. It's too much. And so I'll just leave people with this, and then I'll let Lynn finish off with, the last word. But what I would say is, understand that your Constitution is not working as you think it is. It does not preclude your government outsourcing to private, very self-interested entities for both their money and their legal access to do things, say things, produce things, etc., that the government can't do. So it's using them to get to your kids. And in exchange, what your government is doing is giving them access to your children. And that's very, very valuable to these private entities. This is a little like, they're like, I don't know if you want to play it footsie, one, scratching each other's back, whatever. But all of these people don't care about you, don't care about your kid. They are self-interested, and their interests are money and power. And not necessarily in that order. Excuse the balloons. There's nothing celebratory about this. This is just my stupid computer, and I can't seem to turn it off no matter what I try. But it is money and power. And that's it. And they can't do it without your money, and they can't do it without your compliance. And just repeat that to yourself over and over and over, and you will understand every video that Lynn comes here and makes with me. Yeah. They can't do it without your money or your compliance.
Those balloons represent our children's true gifts and talents, and even special needs, or just the way that they were created, going up in smoke. Let's just
right. They're just floating off into the stratosphere, not to ever be. And tragically, I think they also represent your children's soul. Yep. Because what all of these things do, when the government claims your child, and this is a claiming, I've said it in videos before, every time you hear the word belonging or inclusion, that is a claiming. Yep. That is the state claiming your child's entire being to belong to the state. And so your child, when they talk about reaching their potential, becoming who they're really going to, no, you'll never know who your child will have been, nor will your child, the second they cross the threshold of a public school. And that these days it could be the age of 3 into preschool, or the age of 6 into kindergarten. And that is the last that you will see your natural born child. I'm sorry to be so dramatic, but that's the fact.
Well, I would only add to that by, if you have said, oh, well, I'm not in the public school, this can't touch me. BS, no. Because the second that you sign your child up for early college, dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, anytime you take an apprenticeship, anytime you go into the after school programs that are funded by some of these public-private organizations, they use public school resources.
That's correct.
You're using any of the government services for your special needs or your gifted child, that's federal, state, and local funding as well. So you cannot say, oh, I'm Lily White and driven pure on this. No, we have to stop looking at the headlines, look at the laws, look at the policies, look at the funding. This is not a Democrat alone problem. This is not a Republican owned problem. This is a people problem. This is a we the people solution, because there is more of us than there is those who are over us. And
That's right.
once we understand that we have to keep them accountable, and we're not doing a good enough job of that because we
No,
aren't organized, we must organize and we must hold them accountable. If any of this resonates with you, contact Deb, contact myself, learn how you can start to hold them accountable. And if you don't know, it's okay that you don't know. We all have to start somewhere,
that's
but
right.
we don't have much time to protect our children, to protect our families, and to give holy hell back to those who are saying, oh, they're mine. Because, this is not King Solomon where he is trying to say, okay, whose child is this? And was willing to cut that child in half just to prove a point. Who's the real mother? You're the real parents, not the bloody state.
That's right. That is absolutely right. And I guess, when you mentioned dual enrollment and things like that, there might be some people watching my channel who watch very frequently and say, but wait, Deb, didn't you say that we should try dual enrollment? Understand something. All that Lynn is saying is you are not completely privately educating your child. If you avail yourself of these things, your child will be exposed, which is all the more reason, because it's nearly impossible to escape the matrix. It is
Mhm.
all the more reason to delay, 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 and fight putting your child into their clutches until they're as old as they can possibly be. So if the first time they cross the threshold of a government institution or have anything to do with government institutions is dual enrollment, at least you've had over a decade of educating your own child. They're probably pretty well inoculated in terms of their values, their boundaries, their identity. They will recognize things that don't make sense. They will come home and talk to you about it. Now, there's nothing you can do about them taking your child's data, but I hate to break it to you, the second you got a birth certificate or a social security card, that process started anyway. The second they had an email account or a phone number at whatever age that might have occurred, they started anyway. Even the best of private online programs for homeschooling require at least somebody to have an email address and to register your kid, even if they don't touch the government and somebody's scraping that data. So at this point, the only thing we can help you with is reduce and minimize your child's exposure and your exposure. That's it. We cannot bring it to zero unless
Yeah.
you go live in a cave under the polarized cap and don't connect to electricity. They're watching and they're listening. So all the more reason for you to know all the touch points. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and say, well, then there's no point. I might as well just plug in, because
No,
you're
there's
talking.
every point because
There's
it's your
every
child.
point. It's like, would you rather just give in and expose yourself to carcinogens? Or would you say, you know what, I'm probably not going to smoke, not going to drink, not going to eat processed foods, not going to use fluoride, blah, 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 to reduce my likelihood. And then if I still, well, I guess that was, God's will or whatever, I got a disease. But at least you do what you can. It's the same with this kind of cancer. Keep your kids away from the carcinogens.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Lynn, as always, bless you and thank you
Thank
for
you.
this amazing rundown of everything. Everything that Lynn has just mentioned will be linked below in the description. If you need any further information, please seek out Lynn at commoncorediva.com. There are so many resources there. You should just go and read everything, get your hands on, and become aware of what's happening. Also, follow Lynn at Common Core Diva on X and also on Facebook if you prefer, depending on which platform you prefer. Be, as she said, go easy on yourself. We all have to start somewhere. You're not expected to know or understand this overnight, but these are your babies. So do what you can. All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a good one.